Welcome all as we congregate to the greatest toy line in community, ever growing, ever changing. As we collect and adapt these figures to our own imaginations and embrace the fun, there's much to learn, especially if you're new to Mythics.
Hello, friends, and welcome to a very special live event with Cornboy Mayse, Eric Cornboy Mayse. Thank you so damn much for being here.
You're very welcome. And man, that intro was quite elaborate. I was grooving to it.
It's a build-up, but then it's like, oh, it's just Greg. But today I've got Cornboy, and we're live. I appreciate you so much for being here, taking the time out of your Sunday. Thank you.
Not a problem at all. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. For people that have not seen the show before, it's basically an intro. I had the idea when I met someone at a show that was basically new to Mythics. Him and his son were collecting together, and they were just kind of learning. And sometimes this toy line, it can be intimidating because there's so many figures that have been already introduced and released, and it's like, where do I start? And it can be kind of intimidating. So I wanted to make a series of videos and shows that kind of help you into the world of Mythics if you're new to Mythics. I've done with some friends a video about the different scales, the different sizes, and things like that. We're going to do some introductions and deep dives into different factions and species. We've got a goblin episode coming up pretty soon. I'd love to hear people's stories about how they got introduced into the line. It's just such a great and amazing community, and so much generosity and friendship and kindness. I've said it before. I had a friend that literally sent me a figure, Malleus, just to get me into this, this new toy line. And I was like resistant, but eventually, he sent it, and I'm like, this is pretty dang cool. And so, just that token of generosity got me into this line. And it seems like everyone has a story. And so a lot of times I'm filming these testimonies and people talking about how they got into this amazing toy line that is co-created by this gentleman here. So without further ado, I will let you do some talking. Can you maybe tell us like what you were interested in as a kid?
Well, first, before we get to that, I absolutely adore the community that Walt has built around Mythic Legions. I mean, just today, I saw a post on the Cabal that somebody was new to Legions, new to Mythics, and he had never seen Necronominus. And he asked if it was a post on Necronominus, and he'd asked, is this a new figure and all this kind of stuff? When's it coming out? And instead of people coming in, as the internet is wont to do, coming in and just badgering him and talking crap about him, they were just wonderful, saying, this is when it came out. This is where you get it. This is, it was awesome. They just welcomed the guy in with open arms, and it was super.
Like
cool.
I said, I told you this at the Toy Con in New Jersey. I'm like, this is such an anomaly of good people coming together. But I think it starts with you guys just being so kind and open and generous with your time. I was talking with 20 minutes to Jim last week at IshCon. I mean, he stopped eating his bagel or whatever he was doing and talked to me and Jeff for 20 minutes about just, business and the studio and everything. But just that generosity that you guys have and kindness and openness, it just means so much. Is that the ice cream man? Is he circling again?
Look.
You better go out and get some ice creams.
That's 3 times the ice cream truck has come by.
He's like, buy my ice cream. I'm tired. They're melting.
Sorry about that.
He's stalking you, CB. He's stalking
you. But yeah, I mean, Jim and Eric are both fantastic, and Jeremy and everybody at the studio. We didn't tell them, hey, welcome the fans to this, and talk to them and stuff. They just love doing it because a lot of the guys at the studio are already fans. They're fans of Mythic Legions.
Yes.
And you've hit on a point there that at the beginning of the show that people are kind of resistant at first, saying, oh, cost, oh, they're hard to get a hold of, all this kind of stuff, until they get one in their hands.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like freaking magic to people. Like they're just like, oh, I have to have all of them. And we've at shows, we've had people, they'll come up and they'll try it and they'll ask about the line. They've never heard of it before, or like you said, they've been resistant, and they'll ask about the line, and we'll all talk to them, or like Joe Vassapolo or Cameron or somebody will talk to them. I'll talk to them. Jim will talk to them. Eric will talk to them and explain what the line is. And they say, okay, I'll go ahead and buy one. And we found that like later in the show, later that day, they come back and buy 4 or 5 more. And then they'll come back and buy 3 or 4 more. It's like, it's crazy how that works. Yeah. And I've never in a line have I seen where people seem to be that into it, where they're taking photographs and they just embrace the line more than any other toy line I've ever seen. And I've been collecting toys for a long time, and I've never seen that before. And we just, the 4 of us, I mean, the 3 of us, the studio, Jeremy, all the guys at the studio, we just couldn't appreciate it enough. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think it just carries over. It carries down to us, all the good natured and the wholesomeness and the openness and generosity, the transparency. Jeremy literally, wears his heart on his sleeve in the cabal. He is with us and shares and it means a lot to us, and you guys going to the shows and shaking hands and taking pictures and kissing babies. It just like it means a lot, and I always tell you guys every time I see you, I'm like, thank you guys for being here. I know it's a pain, thank you for just you guys being you, I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate that too. And like I've said 100 times, Jeremy might be the best investment our company's ever made. I mean, I was resistant to it, and I was like, well, we don't really need that, do we? And we were talking about it. We said, okay, let's hire him and see how it goes. He might be the best move we ever made. He's fantastic.
So smart and savvy.
And not only is he good at his job, I mean, he's a fan of the line. Yes. Like he started out as a fan and was brought in, and that's just, it's been really organic with him and a lot of the other people at the studio.
Well, it's obvious
and we
that
just
they
try
care.
not to suck. As long as we don't
no,
suck, I'm good with
there's
it.
no suckage. There's no suckage. Don't worry. No, it just shows that you guys care.
Thanks.
Down, from Cookie to Brute to Diego. Yeah. I mean, everyone, to Vern, like I've talked to everybody and they've all been just open and kind and friendly.
They're awesome.
I walked into Ishcon and I hear Schmurb, Schmurber burger. And it just it feeds my heart, that these guys even know who I am, and it just makes me happy. It makes me feel special that these guys would even know who I was,
I can't say enough. I can't say enough about the crew that we have. Like, we've just been so fortunate and just lucky.
Absolutely. You've got a great
to have built the crew that we have and the community that we have. It's amazing.
It shows. Absolutely. I have a question sorry, go ahead.
Well, your first question was like,
yes,
what kind of toys was I into and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Like early on, like I was into a lot of stuff, but I got into action figures early on. And Migos, like Mego action figures, the ones with the
Yes.
8-inch
Yes.
scale with cloth, that was my thing. I
They
just loved them and couldn't.
I did
That's
too.
why I have like rows and rows of Mezco figures up here. I have
Hmm.
every Mezco figure that's been released so far and more.
Yeah.
But that those kind of translate into modern Migos for me. But Migos,
Yeah.
I loved. And I even customized my own. Like the
Really?
Beast, they never did the Beast figure. Um, so what I did is I painted a. I don't remember if it was. It was one of the Planet of the Apes figures. I think it might have been Urko or Ursus. I painted him blue.
Hmm.
It wasn't much, and he was naked. It wasn't much of
Ah.
a customization job, but that was my first foray into customizing. Is
Yeah.
like turning him blue and making
I hadn't never heard
Beast
that
figure
story.
out of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I loved Mego. And they were so revolutionary for the
Oh
time. I
yeah,
mean, they were very articulated. I had a Superman, and I mean that thing went through some rigors. I carried it
yeah.
with me everywhere. So that blue costume got a little grungy after a while.
The
Um,
ridiculous thing for those is they like Batman and Robin and a lot of the other characters that had gloves just have these oven
the
mitt
mitt.
looking things that were ridiculous.
I
But
kind of lost those mitts when I had
yeah,
Batman. I'm like, he can't grab, there's no batarang throwing,
yeah.
how's he
Just
gonna
paint
climb
the
a rope
hands
with
green or
these?
paint them
Yeah,
blue if you have
yeah,
Robin or Batman.
yeah. No,
Just
I agree.
but then the other thing that I loved was as a kid was Micronauts. I loved Micronauts. Later
Oh,
on, I found out that they were Japanese import, and I started buying those. They were called Microman, and I just loved them. I love the interchangeability of the
yes,
things. I love that you built ships and built them in different
yes,
configurations. That stuff was just really fantastic.
yeah. That
I
was a
still have a
really
lot of that too. It's still in tubs right now, but one
that's
day I'll break it all out again.
every collector's got tubs and bins and
Oh,
storages,
I have
right?
so
Right,
many right now.
Jordan. Yeah. Yeah, that and it's kind of interesting now that you're saying, Micronauts and Migos, because it kind of seems like Mythics has the soft goods like Migo, and then they also have the swappability and stuff and customize as like Micronauts. So it's
The
kind of like,
swappability for Mythic Legions was it was born out of us expecting to do the figures at 3 3/4 inches instead of the 6 or 7 inches. Originally, they were going to be small figures, and when we originally showed them at Toypocalypse, it was a gallery show in New York City during Toy Fair. We we showed there for like 3 or 4 years in a row, and it was at toytokyo.com, Toy Tokyo. And when we showed the Mythic Legions first at that show, they were 7 inch scale. So when we pantographed them down, they would be 3 3/4 inch.
mhm,
And they were meant to just have the Glyos kind of plugins so they could be swappable and stuff.
mhm,
And when we priced them out through factories, we realized going 6 or 7 inches really wouldn't cost us that much more than doing the 3 3/4 inch figures.
mhm,
And so we went ahead and did it. And we said, we just have to make sure that when we do it, that, the shoulders and hips and head all pop on and off and in a certain way, the kind of the way that Glyos do, because we'd like to have that interchangeability. And the
mhm.
factory was like, we can do more than that. We can do the wrists, we could do the elbows, we could do the knees, we
Everything.
could do the ankles,
Do
we
it
could do
all.
everything. Some of it requires a little heat to be able to pop them out. Not too much, but it requires a little bit of heat rather than just popping them out and doing it. But
Did
they did it. We didn't think
Yeah.
that they were going to be sturdy enough when we got them back. We were just completely unsure of how that was going to work.
That
And first time, first shot, they were perfect.
That's what I was going to
Perfect.
ask you, was were you worried about articulation because of the swappability in all the different pieces, because you can end up with, you remember like the Micronauts, the metal ones.
Yeah.
If you play with them long enough, they're just like
they would get floppy.
Yeah,
And
they would get floppy.
And we've had a couple of issues with Mythic Legions here and there, with like the ball joint waists and like the ankles being a little weak and stuff like that. I mean, obviously there are going to be some hiccups here and there, and things aren't going to work out quite the way that you had hoped sometimes. But overall, they've been fantastic. It's been amazing the way the factory has been able to do those and make it work. We didn't think it was possible.
Curtis says, thanks for giving me 7 inches, CB.
Anytime.
I did have a question before I forget it. How did you guys focus, or how did you decide, and was it an ordeal to focus on fantasy? Like, did you guys go back and forth with different type of genres?
Not at all. Like back years ago, before Mythic Legions even became a thing, Eric and Jim and I had been talking about, we need to do something like this. This is something we could really sink our teeth into. But at that time, Lord of the Rings, it was like Lord of the Rings. It was by Toy Biz, I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember those.
And other lines. There were a couple other fantasy lines. And at that time, we were just like, I don't know if we should do it, because it's already there, and we're kind of like, it would seem like we were biting their butts to get this out there. And plus, it might not sell that well because it's that line, and they're doing a pretty good job of it. So there's no reason we would need to do it. And then when Lord of the Rings stopped making figures, when Toy Biz started making figures of Lord of the Rings, we decided, let's go ahead and give this a shot. Let's see how it goes. And there was no real back and forth. We were just like, let's do this. The time is now. Let's go ahead and give it a shot. We tried a couple other things with Gothotropolis and with Magma Core, things like that. And they were okay. Seventh Kingdom, the stuff, yeah, it sold okay. It sold well, but it didn't sell well enough for us to put a lot of money back into the next wave. We would just about be able to go into production again on those figures and not change them all that much. And we didn't really want to do that. And when we put Mythic Legions out, and we tried, Mythic Legions, when we put it out, it was amazing. The response to it was incredible, and we were able to do a lot more, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. No, I was just looking at the construction of this Raven figure, and it does definitely have similarities between the Mythic figures of that were out that had come out initially.
Right. No real swappability though. Like maybe hands and head, and a couple of parts here and there, ankles, but no, your knees and elbows, stuff like that. No swappability on those, but definitely the high detail that we became known for.
Yeah. So do you feel like you guys kind of formulated your company at the right time? Like you feel like it was the right time, like with the toy industry at the time was ready for a fantasy series?
Our company was formulated long before that. Like we started a company in 1999, and we tried a few different types of properties. Like I said, Gothotropolis, Seventh Kingdom, Magma Core. We tried a few different properties in that time, and the stuff, like I said, it hit okay, but it wasn't it wasn't gangbusters. And when we decided to go ahead and try Mythic Legions, it was the right time. It seemed to be, there was nothing else on the shelves that was like that. So we decided to go ahead and give it a shot. And even when they did Lord of the Rings stuff by Toy Biz, it wasn't exactly that type of stuff. It was different.
Yes. Right.
So we decided to try something different, do it in the same genre, but try something a little bit different with it.
Hmm. So how did you guys decide on like what you were going to create like for that first Kickstarter? Did you guys have like a brainstorming, thing like let's do a knight, let's do a dwarf, let's do a
We did. Well, it started with um, just doing knights. Like we did like a group of knights that we could have some minor interchangeability with. And
Mhm.
then we decided, since we had stretch goals, we could go ahead and do orcs for stretch goals, things like that, that would change them up just a little bit. We couldn't do too much with it. We had to make sure that the tooling was paid for what we already had. And then
Right.
if we had stretch goals, we could throw in a chest or, a new head, new arms and stuff um, for orcs, things like that. So, and then,
That,
we changed it a little bit in the legs and the upper arms and stuff to
mhm.
make dwarves and stuff. So it wasn't that much tooling to change it a little bit.
Right. So the Kickstarter was doing well so that you guys were able to start, adding to that, the initial, right? I mean,
If I
so how did that
remember
work?
right, the initial figure release was 8 figures or so. It might have
Mhm.
been more or less a little bit, but then the Kickstarter it went gangbusters, went way crazier than we expected it to, and we were quickly adding stretch goals and stuff to try
Like what
to
else what can we make? What can we design? Like,
right to meet like we already had the ideas and some of the designs and some of the sculptures already done, but we weren't
mhm.
really always expecting to add those to the Kickstarter. So it was a matter of like taking those pieces and like painting them up and then putting it up there and saying, here's the next stretch goal.
That
Yeah,
had
that
to be
was,
like exciting and gratifying though. You know what I mean?
it
Like
really
you
was.
guys had worked for, other companies and now you guys have decided to and I know it wasn't like an overnight thing, but and I know you guys had tried other lines before that, but
Yeah,
it had to be gratifying and exciting to actually, catch a little bit of lightning and see, it's like, okay, we've got something here that people are liking based off of the kickstarting numbers and the reception that you're getting. That had to be, you know,
it was,
exciting.
I think it was exciting and gratifying because we had tried lines before and they did
Hmm.
okay, but didn't do, phenomenally well. And then this one out of the gate did really well. Like
Hmm.
the numbers that we get now don't compare to what we got originally through the Kickstarter, but at that time, like the numbers now are much higher. Not to brag, but they're much higher than the numbers in the Kickstarter were. But they were pretty darn high, and we were not used to that.
Hmm.
They were really good numbers. So yeah, that was crazy that that had like taken off like a bullet when the other lines were like, oh, they did okay. They didn't do spectacular, but this one just went crazy.
Yeah, that's got to feel good, to
Yeah.
be able to just keep making these amazing figures. What was the timeline for that? What year was that when the initial Kickstarter?
If I remember right, the initial Kickstarter it was 2015. Either I don't remember if that's when the figures were released or that was when the Kickstarter. I think the Kickstarter happened in 2015,
Hmm.
and then the figures came out about a year and a half later. It
Hmm.
took a little while to get things through the factory and stuff, but that's how it
That
goes.
that's how it goes. Yeah, it's a process.
We had
Did
to we
you?
had to make sure that things were right, everything was
Mhm.
perfect, and when it was the factory shot through the stuff pretty quickly and got them to us once everything was done, all the tooling and all
Mhm.
the tightness of joints and everything. We got a lot of test shots back from the factory. A test shot is when like you send your prototype over to the factory and then they do the tooling for it. Then they run the plastic through the tooling and um, connect all the joints and all that together and then send them back to you. And then you test it for sculpting, if there's any issues with that. You test it for the articulation in the joints and stuff, and all that stuff we had to get just right before we could release the figure. So it took a while, and it still does. Like,
Yeah, that's a
we
process.
are sticklers. Thank goodness that we have Chris, because Chris Gorich is he's phenomenal when it comes to production.
Yeah.
Like, we were doing all that stuff ourselves somewhat in the beginning. Chris was involved with it, but he wasn't able often to sit around the table with us because he had another job, sit around the table with us and go through everything. He would come into the studio every once in a while to make sure everything was hunky-dory, but we did a lot of that stuff ourselves, and we still do pay attention to a lot of that stuff ourselves too.
So Chris is kind of like the liaison with the factories. So he
very much so. He is the liaison. He actually just went over to Hong Kong. Him and Jim and George went over to Hong Kong about a month or so ago, and took a look at all the factories, took a look at some new factories, and I'm sure ate lots of Chinese food.
Oh,
just called food there.
Just food there, yeah. I was talking to Jim last week, and he said that it helped you guys on the business side, that you had been in this business for so long that it was almost a natural progression for you guys to start your own and have your own business, but you guys knew what to do already because that you'd been in the business already. So it wasn't like you guys were, I don't know how to do this. You guys had pretty much already had gone through, and learned a lot already.
Very much so. When we worked together at McFarlane Toys, that was like a proving ground, and we really did learn how to do a lot of stuff there. And there's probably no way we could have just started a business like that out of the blue without knowing the things that we did. Jim himself taught me a lot when I was there, because I had no clue. I went to the Kubert School to work for comic book companies, drawing comics and stuff. And really? I got hired part-time at McFarlane Toys, and Jim really showed me the ropes, because I had no clue how to do anything toy-wise. Jim had already been in the toy industry for like a decade or so, but he hadn't, worked at the action figure end of things.
Well, can we talk about that for a minute? Like how so you're done with high school. Are you still, we're going back a little ways. Back when we both had hair, right?
Yeah.
So you're out of high school, did you have aspirations? Were you still collecting? What was your path at that time, and how did it lead you to being this amazing toy designer and icon that you are?
So back when I got out of high school, I got married almost immediately, and there was no there were no aspirations to be a toy designer, because I didn't even know that was such a thing here in the United States. I'd pick up a toy and it was made in Japan or made in Taiwan or made in China. And I had no idea they did that here. So I decided to go into comic books, and I went to the Kubert School, which is a comic school in Dover, New Jersey. Yeah. So I moved my whole family from Muncie, Indiana, all the way out to New Jersey. Yeah. And to Dover. And this was quite a few years. Like from high school, I worked in machine shops and worked at Domino's Pizza and all kinds of stuff before that. And I decided I'm going to go into comic books. And we moved out here and went to the Kubert School for a couple of years. And a company hired me saying, "Oh, we make toy dolls and toy trucks." Or actually a guy said, "Hey, a company's looking for artists, and they make toy dolls and toy trucks." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I gave him a call, and the guy said, "Oh, blah, 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 McFarlane, blah, 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 Spawn." And I was like, "Whoa, what?
Wait a minute."
Yeah, wait a minute. And at the time, it was like a dream of mine. like this guy has made a company and doing his own toys, and they looked phenomenal. And then
Yes.
suddenly I'm on the phone with him, and I didn't even try to get on the phone with him. It was just pure dumb luck. That happens a
Wow.
lot in my life, a lot of pure dumb luck. And they had me come in and show them my portfolio, which actually was pretty bad. It was pretty awful. And they hired me as part-time
Wow.
so I could continue going to the Kubert school. And I went there for like a year and a half. I say a couple of years, but it was a little over a year and a half. And they hired me to work there, and I was working there part-time, and they were wanting me to come on full-time. So I asked a couple of my instructors at the school. I was like, McFarlane Toys wants me to come on full-time to work there. And every one of them were like, what are you still doing here? Why are you still here if you've been hired to work for
Yeah.
them? And I was like, oh, okay. So I dropped out of the Kubert school and started working at McFarlane Toys. And Eric and Jim, I met them when I was there, and we ended up starting our own company, moving our own
So,
direction and doing our own thing. We worked there for a couple of years together.
so what figures were already, was it basically the early Spawn toys when you started already, or?
What had been released was the very early Spawn toys. I think it was probably the second wave of Spawn toys by the time I started working there. We work a year or so in advance of the toys being released, though.
Mhm.
So by the time I started working there, they were probably working on the maybe third or fourth series of
Mhm.
Spawn, and they were also working on Wetworks and um, Marv, a couple other things when I started working there.
Mhm.
So they had moved beyond just Spawn and were doing other things when I
Yeah,
started
really
working there.
innovative though. Like I was talking to Diego, you guys' shipmaster, the ship lord,
He's
Diego,
the
and
ship man.
the shipman. Like McFarlane is such a I mean, I don't really know any other toy line at the time that was doing something so amazing and radical and different.
Yeah.
The figures at the time, visually, were just, I mean, the shelf presence. Even now, you put a Redeemer on the shelf, and it's like, whoa, that's pretty dang cool.
And I
The
think that you
spikes and
have Eric Treadaway mostly to thank for that, because a lot of the style, like Todd obviously had control of the company, but a lot of the style of some of the characters, it was all Eric that came
Mhm.
up with that stuff. And he drew stuff and sent it to Todd for approval, and then sculpted it. And his work there was phenomenal and prolific, I'd like to
Mhm.
say, because there was so much of it he was doing for
Mhm.
them. There were a couple other sculptors that were there. There was a couple of outside sculptors that were doing work, and there was one or two in-house sculptors, but it was mostly Eric. As a matter of fact, the um, Violator, the bendy
Mhm.
Violator,
Mhm.
that was Eric's. Eric did
Wow.
that one, and he, I guess, tried out for McFarlane Toys by sculpting a Violator figure, and it was first released in a little 2-pack of Spawn and Violator, and that was going way back to the very
Yeah,
beginning.
I remember
And
seeing that.
then
Yeah.
he moved out here and he moved from Tennessee to New Jersey and started
Wow.
working for the company.
So when did you guys? So you guys kind of befriended each other, you and Jim and Eric
It was
befriended
just
each other,
working together, and we just kind of congealed. It
kind of
wasn't like
meshed.
just the befriending thing. It was just it was just a natural progression.
Yeah. And so what was the catalyst? Was there something that you guys were like, you know what, we can just go solo and kind of freelance? Was there
Yeah,
something that?
yeah, it really was. What was happening is McFarlane was moving in a slightly different direction than we were okay with, because we love toys and action figures and stuff, and their figures were starting to move into more statuesque kind of things. And
I noticed
they were
that. Yeah.
Yeah, they were like
Yeah.
baseball and basketball and military figures and stuff like that that we weren't all that interested in. I mean, it was okay stuff. I mean, it was beautifully done, but it was not what we were interested in making things. We wanted things to be as articulated as possible.
Right.
And we wanted to do superheroes and monsters and stuff like that. We didn't really want to stick to the real world. Like even with
Mhm.
Mythic Legions, it's there's um stuff that kind of is from prehistory, like from historic things, but it's fantasy based. And like with
Right.
Cosmic Legions, it's futuristic. It's not like the normal everyday things like a military person or basketball. It's just
Right.
not
Yeah,
something we
you're
were interested in. They did phenomenal with it, and they did spectacular as far as the sculpting and everything goes, but we just weren't really all that into it.
mhm.
So we
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
like
started our own thing. We said, you know what, we should just go ahead and move on, do our own thing. And we parted ways with McFarlane and started our own company. And we immediately signed with Mattel as exclusive contractors, which they had never done anything like that before. And we obviously had never done anything like that before.
mhm.
And we started doing Max Steel. We started
Mhm.
doing like some villains for Max Steel, and we did some Hot Wheels play sets that never saw the light of day, and some other stuff. But eventually, Harry Potter. We did the presentation for Mattel to take to Warner Brothers to win the Harry Potter license. We sculpted figures for that.
Oh, wow.
And those will never see the light of day because they were based more on the book style of
Mhm.
Harry Potter than the movie, which we
Than the
hadn't seen
movies.
yet.
Yeah.
And then we did a few figures for the movies as well. We did the troll for the Harry Potter movie. We did the Cerberus, the Fluffy, the three-headed dog,
Mhm.
and we did the troll. Wait, we did the troll, Fluffy. Oh, and Hagrid, the big giant guy
Right.
for
Right.
Mattel. And we started working for Mattel and eventually moved on to Masters of the Universe, DC Universe Classics, all that other stuff. We worked for
Yeah.
them for a long time. And after a while, it wasn't exclusive, but we still stayed as exclusive as possible to Mattel.
Mhm. Yeah, I think Masters was a huge thing for you guys.
It was.
And I know a lot of I've done a few of these shows now, and a lot of people are saying that they collected Masters as a kid, and now the Mythics evokes that nostalgia of Masters, and you guys have tributes and stuff like that now too.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we do. We do the tributes. It started with PowerCon. We wanted to do like a special PowerCon exclusive, and then it continued with people liked it, so we did more every year for PowerCon. But now there's no PowerCon, so we decided to do one uh, without PowerCon involved.
Right.
But
Yeah, the Buzz Off
yeah,
tribute figures is
hopefully
awesome.
PowerCon will come back. Who
I'm
knows?
hoping
But
so. Yeah, I'm
we
hoping
may
so.
we may continue doing those just
Yeah.
because we love them so much.
Well,
But
there's a
the
lot of
Masters of
us.
the Universe line, it was amazing because we started with the 2000X Masters, and it was like our own style. Like we were
Mhm.
doing our own thing with it, and the cartoon was based around the figures that we sculpted. Like it wasn't like mostly wasn't the cartoon coming up with the designs and then we sculpted it. It's like we sculpted this, and then the cartoon came and said, "Hey, let's take this and put it in the
These
cartoon."
are
That
nice
was
designs you
awesome.
guys got here. Let's
Yeah, that was awesome. But
that's a huge honor, you know. That's
yeah,
cool.
it really was. I mean, that's been our whole career. Like it's been nothing but a blessing for us to work on things like Masters Universe and DC Universe Classics, and we've even worked a couple of times with Toy Biz on the Marvel Legends stuff, and
Mhm.
it's just been a complete blessing and just incredible
So
doing the
have you
work that
seen
we've been doing.
like a steady rise of interest in and also business wise in figures over the decades. You know, like it seemed like there was kind of a lull. You know, like Mego and stuff like that was popular, Micronauts.
Yep.
But it seemed like there was a lull in figures. But then now with the '90s and the toys, McFarlane and stuff, it seemed like it started to gain more, power of the force or whatever.
Well, I think that Mattel at the time, I don't remember, but I don't think that they had an action figure line when they hired us. They might have been doing Max Steel and things like that. But when they hired us to come in and work on things, it was when we presented the stuff that we wanted to do with them to them, they were like very much on board. They were like, we walked into a meeting with them and said, a few things, but we said, most of all, we'd love to revamp and relaunch He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
Mm-hmm.
They were very much on board with that. They were saying that's exactly what we were thinking.
Yeah. So it's been kind of dormant for a while.
Yeah. And I think for them, action figures in general had been somewhat dormant. So we gave it a shot and it did pretty well. So they're still doing Masters. So
yeah, well, I think you guys were definitely integral to the revitalization. You guys are, were the foundation, I think, and I think maybe other companies saw what you guys were doing at McFarlane, and then had your own thing going, and I think these companies maybe saw, reading the future of like, hey, these things that Todd is doing are doing well. There's Toys R Us are everywhere, and figures seem to be on the rise. So it was smart and savvy on Mattel's part to revitalize that toy line and call you guys.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, definitely.
I couldn't have been happier when Mattel contacted us and then decided, yeah, we want to do Masters of the Universe too. That was incredible. And we've gotten to play in so many sandboxes over the years that if I died tomorrow, I could die happy. I don't plan to die for a long time.
Right? Yeah. Don't say that. Don't say that.
Yeah. But I could die happy with what I've done, because I didn't even know action figures were done here in the United States. It's all been a love for me since I was little, and I've collected, and it's what I always wanted to do. I didn't know they were done, but then I found out that they're almost all done here in the United States. There are, Japanese and other Chinese and other properties out there, different companies that do it. But here in the United States, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of action figures that are done and designed here. And to take that, like, that's what I wanted to do. And then be able to, like I said, play in the sandbox of all these companies and all these properties. It's been amazing to me. Yeah. Amazing.
So
lucky.
You being in the toy industry, like, how has that affected your own personal collecting? I know you said you have.
Here's the thing. The t-shirt that you're wearing, that's my favorite comics character of all time. I love the thing. My big issue is, now that I'm in the toy industry, is that I probably have maybe 3 Thing figures, because I've never seen one that I really love. I've never seen one. Mezco, I love Mezco. Everything that they do, they love. There are a lot of issues with the Thing figure. Anything that Hasbro's released, I love that Hasbro does Marvel Legends. Marvel is my go-to geek culture stuff, but when it comes to the Thing, they've never really hit on what I think the Thing should be.
Have you designed your own just to do it?
1 second.
All right. Take your time. Take your time.
No,
we're here.
It's right here.
This
So
is a sculpt, everybody. This is privileged
it's not really
viewing
much
right
of a
here.
scoop. I've shown it before. A few years
Okay, let's see
ago,
what you got.
Eric Treadaway sculpted a thing figure for me. Surprised me with it. He made it for me for Christmas, and it's based on the John Byrne thing
Oh
figure.
yeah,
And
I love it.
it's less than a 6-inch scale, because at the time Toy Biz was doing slightly smaller than 6 inches, but that's the thing figure that he sculpted
I
me, and it
love it.
has articulated shoulders and elbows, but it was cast in urethane that we did at the studio. It's not
Yeah.
like a hard plastic thing. It's cast in like the urethane plastic, so still has scraped away paint there for blue joints, but
Yeah, I'm a big
articulated
John
head,
Byrne fan.
articulated waist, shoulders, elbows, and articulated thighs, but it just kind of does this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I love this figure. He stands up there with my Mego figure. I'm with my
Absolutely.
my Mezco figures. He's
Yeah.
just so phenomenal. But yeah, Eric surprised me with that for as a Christmas gift one year.
That's an awesome gift.
I've told him a few times he needs to do the other 3 to go with it.
Right.
And
Yeah. It's like keep going every year, Eric.
Yeah. He said he had sculpted a Reed Richards figure, but put it off, and then he goes back to it and he changes things a little bit and then puts it off, and then he goes back and changes a little more. So one day I'll have the other 3. But
he should.
Yeah,
this
is my pride and joy of everything in my collection.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah, he should be like, I already dropped off Sue Storm. She's at your house already. I put her on the shelf for you. Right next to the thing. Yeah, she's right there.
I'd be like, oh, damn, she's invisible. I can't
find her. I don't see her anywhere.
But one day I'm going to hold him to it, and I'm going to make him sit down and sculpt all 3 of them, and so they can go with my thing figure. But I just couldn't appreciate this more. It's a fantastic
it's
rendition of what I would like to do with the thing. So yeah, that's kind of how things have changed for me with toy collecting since being in the toy industry. I'm much more critical of the thing figure in particular. Most other figures I'm okay with. There are changes that I would make here and there, and sometimes I do a little customizing and changing them slightly. But the thing figure is the one that really sticks in my craw.
Right. Well, you're friends with Mezco. You got to call them up and say, hey, we need a version 2 of Cornboy version. I would buy it. I really would.
He actually, when he was doing the Fantastic Four, he contacted us. Mez did, and he asked if we wanted to do them, and we said we'd love to. There was conflicts of our schedule. We weren't going to be able to do them when he wanted to do them, so we weren't able to do them. So he asked when I said something about they showed an image of the thing figure and the other 3 figures, and he just flat out said, hey, what do you think? And I told him, I said, that's the problem, is that I'm super critical, and this needs to be changed, that needs to be changed, this needs to be changed. If you look at the original image of the Fantastic Four that they released at a Comic-Con a couple of years ago, the thing was gigantic. And I told him, I was like, the thing needs to be roughly the same height as Reed Richards, maybe a little bigger, but the same height, 6 foot, 6'2".
Right.
And they've actually shrunk him down a little bit from the original image to the final toy, or at least, I don't know how the image was put together. Maybe they were put together separately and they accidentally sized him larger or whatever. But I think that they did shrink the body of the thing figure, made him slightly smaller.
Yeah. So. I think that a lot of companies that deal with the comic properties should go back to the classics, and the classic stuff is what was successful.
Well, at least at least do it that way first, and then later
Right.
on do the
Yeah.
other version of it. I know that when we worked at Mattel, some of the DC figures would come in and they'd say, okay, we want this version of this character. And we were a little disappointed because it was more of an updated version of the character instead of the classic version. We had done a lot of the classic versions of the characters, but there were some here and there that were more updated. And we were a little bit disappointed because we would rather, like you said, have seen the classic versions before the updated version.
Right.
Yeah. But, you know, be that as it may, all four of my Fantastic Four figures are standing in the other room on top of my entertainment center, on top of the what's it called, the cable box. So I still love them, even though it's not exactly.
I sent you a thing.
Yeah,
I sent Cornboy a thing figure also.
Yep.
And I felt bad. I lost his hands. He just has the fists, and I'm like, where did I do with his hands? So if I ever find them, I'll ship them to you. But whenever I see the thing,
he's supposed to have fists anyway.
That's right. It's clobbering time. It's clobbering
always
time.
Fists.
I love that '60s cartoon of the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and Cap and Hulk. The songs.
I do too.
Iron Man. Those were so good.
I just the other day I was reminded of that. The Hulk theme song with Bruce Banner. They showed it on I think it was YouTube or Facebook or something like that, and it was hilarious. I love
they had the little jingles. They had like I don't remember.
Bruce Banner stricken by gamma rays turns into
and they're kind of catchy, like
glamorous.
I remember Iron Man was like, Tony Stark makes you feel he's a cool exec with the heart of steel, and I'm like, oh, this is catchy. I don't remember the rest, but it was
they were all catchy.
60s, you know, and I've noticed they have like a bootlegged video of the new trailer for the new Fantastic Four movie, and it looks like it's kind of in a 60s era, you know, and I'm like, oh, it's perfect for Fantastic Four.
They've already said it's being done in kind of like a 60s era, but it's like a future retro kind of environment, and I love that. Like I just recently got into Fallout 4, and that really speaks to me because it's like in that kind of 50s, 60s era, and I love post-apocalyptic things, and it just all that speaks to me. And the Fantastic Four movie seems to be in that vein where it's kind of like in the 50s, 60s era, but kind of like futuristic retro, and I love that. I'm really hopeful for it. I saw The Thing, and he was like in a suit. He was like on the dating game or some kind of crap. And from the back, so he's kind of shadowed, and he looks like he might be the size and the build that I like to see the Thing at. So I'm hopeful for that.
And I was kind of disturbed in the Marvel movies how big they made the Hulk. I mean, the Hulk is a big guy, but in the movies he was like 10, 12 feet tall or something, and I'm like, it's crazy, you know. It doesn't, and for the Marvel thing, it doesn't need to be proportionate. His strength is his strength. It's not based off of how big he is. It's, you know, the gamma rays that made him strong. You know, he's strong. He doesn't have to be, you know, 12 feet tall.
Well, that's exactly, I forget who said it, but they said Superman doesn't need gigantic muscles because it's the rays of the yellow sun that strengthens him. That's why he's strong. He doesn't have to have all these giant muscles.
Right.
And the Hulk, I kind of feel is the same way. He needs to be, you know, he needs to be big. I don't mind him being large. He's always been drawn large, but he doesn't need to be gigantic.
Right.
In the movies, he's always been portrayed that way. I mean, the most recent movies like the MCU and the ones preceding that. And there's been a few times where in the comics he's been much larger than the other characters, but he does seem a little large in the movies.
Yeah. But I always loved how the Hulk and the Thing always had, you know, they always
tussles.
Little tussles. Yeah, that's a good term for
and
it.
The Thing, the Hulk is obviously much stronger than the Thing, but the Thing is
He's
a
got
bit more intelligent. So
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
there
how he
was a
gets
comic.
by.
There was I think it was McFarlane era, and Hulk was a little bit weaker, and the Thing, but he was not as smart as the Thing, and the Thing was kind of messing with him because he knew that, you know, if the Hulk got a hold of him, you know, he would give him, you know, he'd rough him up, and
Yeah.
so the Thing was playing it smart. He was kind of going from this, you know, this tree to that tree there in the park, and he didn't want people to get hurt or anything, and he went into I think he went into a pond or a river or something, and the Hulk jumped in, and the Thing gave him like the Heimlich maneuver and like took all the air out of him, and like the Hulk passed out. And I'm like, I never seen that before. I never heard of that. You know, there's no oxygen. You know, he's passed out too, just like anybody else. But I love that. That was so
That's
cool. But
cool. That's crazy. He
yeah,
I love that, like he gets by on. My favorite thing is, okay, he's got superpowers, but I love that he gets by on will alone sometimes, you
mhm.
know, will and intellect.
He's an every man. You
Yep.
know, he
Yep.
still goes to a bar. He's in love with the girl, and you know, he just wants love. He wants, you know, Johnny not to make fun of him, and
Yep.
you know, he's just a regular guy just made out of rocks.
He's a regular schmo.
Yeah, but no, I love the imagination of comics, and it seems like you guys still, um, you know, still have those roots of imagination, and I talk about it a lot in the Mythic line of how the swappability and the different parts and the creativity, it's just a thing unto itself. You know, it's like, did you guys even predict the trajectory or the size or how much more than a toy line it's become?
I can honestly say absolutely not. I mean, I think that we were hopeful that it was going to be a hit as far as action figures go, but we had no idea that it was going to garner such creativity from people and such, like, if you go on the Cabal, there are so many people who are customizing these things, and like when customization of Mythic Legions originally got started, like people were sculpting different heads
Hmm.
or different pieces for the Mythic Legions figures. We were kind of like, whoa, wait a minute, they can't do that. That's our toy line.
Right.
That's Well, yeah, we
That's what I
were
was going
kind
to
of a
ask
little bit
you.
standoffish. We were a little bit resistant on that, and then we realized, wait a minute, they're creating these things, and because they're able to create these different heads and the different looks, and they're able to sit down and paint their figures and do photographs of their figures, and we were seeing that it was more so than we'd ever seen before in a
Hmm.
line. We decided, you know what? This is a good thing. It's going to be good for everybody. Not
Right.
only is it good for people's creativity, and you know, they get to go out and show everything that they're doing. They get to sell things that they're
Hmm.
doing. It's going to be good for us too, because if they appreciate the things that we're doing, and then they can come in and customize that, that's only, like people say, the ship in the water, it raises whatever rate the raises the water, I forget what it is, but everybody's going to benefit from it. There's no
Yes.
reason to be resistant to it,
Right. Yeah, and
as
I
long as
think that
I do admit that we have decided to control it a little bit, in that we don't allow you to make the joints and the for the elbows or the knees, stuff like that. You
right.
can't really create those. Then we'll probably have an issue. But
Yeah.
for the most part, we welcome that creativity.
Yeah. And I think people are not looking at the figures thinking, you know, that this figure is not adequate or it's not good enough, like I can make something better. It's like, you know, you're giving a creator a blank canvas. You know, I'm looking
Yeah.
at these Legion Builder figures that you guys make, and it's like people that are creative, more creative than me, definitely. are like, this is something I can build on. So it's like a respect and a love thing. It's not like, you know, these figures are okay, I can make it better. It's not that. I don't think it's that state of mind. It's
Right.
you know, we can build something amazing with something that's already amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that you guys giving the fans room and the ability and making it okay, I think that that just shows how awesome the studio is also, that you're not like, oh, we're suing anyone that's making heads that go on our figures, you know, that's BS. You know, you guys, you know, and I'm sure initially you'd be like, wait a minute, you know, is this okay?
It
But I
was
think
that we were exactly like that. We were like, wait a minute, they're taking our figures and making new figures.
Yeah.
Should we allow that? And like I said, it's completely changed in that we've learned that, you know, it's only going to benefit everybody.
Yes.
Not
But
just them,
that
not just
thinking,
us. Everybody's going to benefit from it.
yeah, that thinking is just is progressive, and I think people appreciate that. You know, I mean, there's people that are making a living off of, you know, the creative part of your toy line.
And that's
You know,
awesome. I
it's
love that people are like, there's two things that I really love about this line. I love that, like you said, people are making money off their creativity because of our line. Like they're able to make a living by, you know, creating customs and selling them and stuff. I love that. And I love when like little kids get into our line. Like we'll be
yes,
standing at a table and like
yes,
little kids come up and they're like asking questions, and they're not asking questions for their dad.
right,
They're up there legitimately asking questions about mythic legions. And more often than not, if a kid is asking about mythic legions for the first time and I'm standing at the table, I'll hand them one. You get them started early and get them
yes,
started cheap.
yes,
And I'll say, there you go, it's yours. And then they'll
yeah.
come back.
But that's genius, and that's, you know, like you guys have the figures open as people are walking by, like that you
Yeah.
have this Sphexian bug with these beautiful wings out, and it's hard to resist. If you are interested in figures, you're like, what is that? That's kind of cool, you know. And then, you know, here, check it out. But and then, you know, just you guys being so approachable too, it's just I don't know, it's an amazing thing. But yeah, I love seeing kids like Jeremy is so good at welcoming, you know, new fans,
Yep.
people, you know, that are, hey, you know, I brought my kid, and he's never, you know, he's into you know, dwarves,
Pokemon or
or
whatever.
yeah, it's like it's this thing is so welcoming, and there's such a selection of different figure types that there's
Yep.
something for everyone, and it's great. Like you know, people are collecting with their sons or daughters, you know, and customizing and doing all kinds of things together. That's fun.
Yes, it is.
Wholesome.
I think
love
it's
that.
fantastic. I mean, it reminds me of back when I was a little kid. I didn't know of any comic conventions or toy conventions when I was little. I just went to the comic store and was just like amazed at all these. There's this one comic store that I would go to, and they would accept comics in exchange, where you would hand them two comics plus a nickel, and then you get to pick a comic off the shelf.
Wow.
And you know, there was some crappy comics that I had that I just didn't really care for. That
Yeah.
I took them up there and handed them a nickel, and then I could pick any comic off the shelf.
Yeah.
And I would take a stack, and I would walk out of there with, you know, 5 or 6 comic
Wow.
books, and just be so
That's pretty
happy
cool.
with that. And I just love that you know, kids come up and it reminds me back when I had that enthusiasm, like,
Yes.
oh, look, this is something new. Oh, this is something
Yes.
different. And they're coming up seeing this for the first time, something that I'm involved with.
Yes.
That they're
That's
like,
gotta
oh,
be
this is something new and different. And I'm like,
gotta be
here you go.
magic. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's gotta be
I love
magic.
that.
Because I think about how much I loved comics as a kid. Like I would think about Cyborg from Teen Titans, and just
Yeah.
how cool some of these characters were, and I would get so excited to go and get a comic book, you know, ROM Space Knight, or, you know, Secret Wars. It was just like an amazing feeling, like so exciting.
Yeah.
And now it's like, you know, when I get a mythic in the mail, I have that excitement again. You know, it's like they're just so much fun, and they're good for kids too. I mean, they're not fragile. They're not gonna. I mean, maybe a bow or something might snap, but big deal. I mean, these figures are just, they're well made and they're fun. These new skeletons are a
Yeah.
blast. Like everyone should get a skeleton because they're just so much fun to have
That's
around, to
awesome.
play with. But yeah, it's just it's an amazing toy line. So
Yeah,
how do you
we'll
feel about?
probably, the skeletons seem to be a hit, and a lot of people were asking about whether we're going to do those again. We don't currently have any plans, obviously, since people have just eaten those up and just loves
They
them.
really
We've talked about it. Every Wednesday we have a meeting, and we're like, we should probably do these again. A lot of people like them. We should release them again. We may release them, you know, the same way or slightly different, or maybe completely
Mhm.
different color. Who knows? But I mean, chances are we will probably release those again at some point. There's a lot of people who
Yeah.
missed out, and we feel bad about that. That, you know, people miss out on stuff. But
Well, I love
um,
that you guys listen to your fans. You know, I think Jeremy is so good at that.
he
At
definitely is.
Has, you know, an ear to what's going on, and finger on the pulse, whatever you want to use. That he, you guys pay attention. Like I have a good example is, you guys have these in stock sales or pre-order. Like you guys are not, you know, 2 weeks, a week. You guys are giving us a month or longer, you know, and you know, that way we can figure out bills, we can adjust, you know. It's like that stuff, it means a lot. It shows that you guys care.
Well, a
And
little
that's
behind the
important.
scenes here, Jeremy just sent us a plan of what's going on over the next, I guess, next 2 months.
Hmm.
The things that are being released or the things that are coming in, things like that. And we moved things around just because we were cognizant of the fact that, you know, they might not be able to afford this. They might,
Right.
you know, want to do this with it rather than spend their money here than here,
Right.
and those kinds of things. So we really do. I mean, uh, we try to listen. We do it as much as possible, and we
Yeah.
try to make sure that fans can afford what, like,
Yeah.
I would love to just release something every other day, or release something, you know, once a month or something
I
like
would
that.
too, but I'd be
You
homeless.
just, yeah, you just can't do that. You know, fans
Yeah.
can't handle that kind of stuff.
But
So
that you guys listen, and you know, that means a lot.
yeah.
I was going to ask you, like, how involved are you in the day to day? So that kind of answered the question, in that you're getting emails from Jeremy on business plans or sales plans and stuff. So you mentioned before we started the show that you're still working with um what was the name of that toy line?
Oh,
Um,
the company, the company that did Legendary.
yes, Legendary. I couldn't think
Yeah,
of the name.
we designed and sculpted all that kind of stuff. A lot of what I'm doing now, like right now, I'm mostly working from home. Almost all the time, I'm working from home. I'm still very involved, but working from here because during the pandemic, things got kind of nasty. And between then and now, I had some pretty major surgeries. So
Hmm.
being around a lot of people is not a good idea.
Right.
Um, and probably when I start going back to the studio, often I'll wear a mask all the time,
Right.
just to be on the safe side. Because what happened uh, a while back was, like, I had some surgery. I had a valve. I can't remember, aortic valve put in a
Hmm.
few years ago,
Mm-hmm.
And since then, and after the pandemic, I got an infection on the valve.
Mm-hmm.
No idea where it came from. They checked me out and couldn't figure out where it came from, but they had to open me up again. And they opened me up.
And that's a big
they,
surgery.
It's major surgery. It's open heart surgery. Literally, they opened up my heart to do that stuff. And this is the second time they've done it. And they replaced the valve, and then they had another valve that they had to do some work on because of the infection. And so I've had to be really careful about wearing a mask and all that kind of stuff now.
Yeah,
I
you don't want to
can't really risk that again.
Because you were hospitalized for quite a while.
4 months. Like I was at 3 different hospitals over the course of 4 months, and in and out a little bit after that, to doctors and hospitals. So it was not an easy recovery. It was not fun.
We were all worried about you.
The first one, when I had the open heart surgery, I was amazed that the recovery wasn't that serious. The recovery, they had me up walking the next day. Like I had open heart surgery, my chest was split open. The next day I was up walking around again. And within a week I was out of there, and I was back home, and I was still recuperating, but I was doing fantastic. And this time it did not go so well. It was not pretty. So right now I'm still working from home for the most part. But I do a lot of project management on outside projects. There are probably 4 or 5 projects in the pipeline right now that I'm working on.
Exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah, it's all really exciting.
That will benefit us all, I'm sure.
Some unusual new stuff that we've never done. The type of stuff that I can't really talk about any of it yet.
That's okay.
It's really, really good stuff. But the legendary stuff, it started out as us just coming in and re-sculpting a couple of things, just adding some textures and like adding some extra pieces and stuff too. But when they saw what we did and liked what we did, we ended up sculpting the whole line. We ended up designing, sculpting, and doing a lot of the line for that line, and it did well. It went through Kickstarter and it was successful. So hopefully you'll be seeing those figures soon.
Yeah, they're really. I saw them in the New York Comic Con, and they're really nice looking figures. So I've got really 2 questions. Cool. 2 questions. I've been wondering, and I'm throwing it out there. Are you going to be at Legion's Con?
Well, there are a lot of toy conventions between right now and Legion's Con, and I'm not going to any of them specifically so I can save myself for Legion's Con. I missed it last year, and that killed me that I missed Legion's Con. I was laying in the hospital with really bad Wi-Fi, looking on my phone at everybody who had been at Legion's Con.
Yeah, we were looking for you.
I missed it all. Like it was early November when I went in the hospital, and I missed all that stuff. And I missed Thanksgiving and Christmas and all kinds of stuff. But Legion's Con and the whole Mythic weekend where we have intern for a day and the big reveal and everything. It was the G-Con. It was a bummer. I missed all that.
Yeah.
So
well, you're the heart of
myself this year, staying here in my house and doing work from home until Legion's Con comes up.
Take care of yourself. You are the heart of the company. And everyone here is like, yes, Cornboy, yes, they missed you. Wasn't the same without you. Everyone is commenting like,
I missed everybody too.
How much they missed you and are looking forward to you coming back. I want to ask one more question before I let you go.
It's strange to know that you appreciate everybody that's going to be there.
Yes.
Like that everybody that was Legion's Con, you realize when something like this happens, you really, really miss out. And I'm going to really look forward to seeing them all there.
Yeah. How surreal is it though? Like to be like famous is not the right word, I guess, in this community, but just, I mean, people like take ownership of you almost. It's like you're everybody's corn boy. You're a corn boy, you know? It's like how surreal is that
I
for
don't
you?
really. It's to me, it's not a sense of fame at all. It's like we got lucky that we get to make a cool toy line, and everybody seems to be really cool with the toy line that we're doing, and
Absolutely.
that's pretty much it. I mean, we're really
Yeah.
happy that they were that that all of our fans have latched onto the toy line the way they have, and I really don't see it as like I'm famous or infamous or any of that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
we
I think
just love everybody who's
yes.
into the toy line. It's
That
fantastic.
that's what it is. It's just love and goodness. It's like I tell my girlfriend, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's Jim or there's Eric, and I'm trying to like convey, like, and she just sees Eric, he's kind of a short guy with a beard. He's just kind of like a nondescript, but I'm like, no, 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 that's Eric. That's Eric.
That's the
Like
Eric.
that's the Eric. And she's
Yeah.
like, okay. And I'm like, no, 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 you don't
Well,
get
that's
it.
the
You
thing.
don't.
Like Jim, Eric, and I have been together for so long. It's been what 30 years or
Mhm.
so. It's been how long has it been with the company? The 20 years for the company, and then
Mhm.
another few years before that. I don't know, but like each other, we just see each other as coworkers. So it doesn't. It's not all that strange to us. But then people come up and go, "Oh, it's the Cornball. Oh, it's Jim. It's the Jim. It's the." And
Yes.
that just it's completely strange to us. It doesn't click with us
Thank
yet.
you.
I mean, even now,
Yeah.
we just make a
Yeah.
toy line. We got lucky that this is what we get to do, and people appreciate it, and
We
that's
really do. We're
fantastic.
huge fans. Huge fans.
Fans is a
And
word that I hesitate to use too.
well, we're fans of
Collectors
the
and
toys, fans of you guys being awesome people. Oh, and we lost Cornboy. I was going to ask him about the different media or what the future was going to hold for Mythics, and I can't ask that question. I'm going to wrap it up, I think. I'm going to send him a message because I would have to get his link, send him a link, I think, to get him back on. But I thank you guys so damn much for being here. Sorry, Cornboy. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thank you guys very much. I did have an announcement that my boy, Mr. Curtis, has a mythic gauntlet that he is going to be running. He started, what started today, Curtis? Um, so let's see, Saturday Live, Purple Gang Gang, did that already. He did Latin Legions with my boy Ed. Shooting the Shelf is tonight at 9. So you guys check that out. You got about 40 minutes to grab some snacks and get ready for Shooting the Shelf with Jesse and Curtis. They're gonna have my friends Brett and Stefan. Legion's Quest is Monday. My show, New to Mythics. Now, did you guys notice that Cornboy was wearing my shirt? Did you guys notice that? I noticed it. I'm greatly honored that he had it. Curtis is going to be on my show, New to Mythics. Cornboy reached out to me. I wasn't stalking him. He reached out to me one day. I was sitting on the porch and I got a message from Cornboy and said, "Hey, can I buy your shirt?" And I'm like, "Dude, you can have this shirt for $20 shipped." And so I sent him a thing figure and some stickers and my T-shirt. And I said I would be remiss if I didn't ask you coming on my show. Would you please be on for an hour? And I would love the hell out of that. So this was his hour. He did his hour. Thank you guys very much for watching. Let's see. So Curtis is Legion's Cast on Thursday. Friday is Offworld. If you guys haven't watched Offworld, that is the best damn. I get so entertained. Joe Joe should be a gauntlet every week. Joe Gonsalves is a gift. And then bonus Euro Legions and news. And with the Legions ladies, he's just doing the news. He's not going to be on the whole show. He's too important for that. Let's see. It looks like Mr. Brad said maybe Curtis can make an appearance on our Legions lair. That sounds good. I'm down for that. I would love to see that. So you guys tune in to Curtis. Give Curtis some love. He's one of the best. I love my man. Oh, Cornboy's back. Cornboy's back, guys. Come on, everybody. He's back. He's back.
Sorry about that.
No,
my
that's
phone
okay.
was not properly plugged in and it died.
I was gonna just wrap it up and say, hey, thanks. I was gonna let you go.
That's okay.
I did have one last question.
Oh, okay.
Is that for cats? What is that right there behind you? Is that for like a tube for cats to run along in or something? What?
The post.
Oh, this.
Yeah.
No, that's a post behind us.
Is it a scratching post?
No, this is such a weird house.
Is it a naval thing going on?
This is a rental, and this is a downstairs. We're downstairs,
Okay.
kind of like the basement area, but it's not the basement. And
I thought maybe you had cats or something, and they ran along the top or something and scratched on the.
And that's just a thing at the top.
Awesome. So I did have one last question before we say goodbye. My question was the future of the line, the media. I know you guys have a video game.
Yep.
But have you guys looked into maybe, animation, films, things like that? Can you give us any kind of, or are you at least looking into it? You don't have to tell me anything, but are you guys exploring that, or are you happy with?
As far like right now, we are. Can't say too much about it.
That's okay.
But as far as like we're looking into other avenues, I'll say.
Okay.
Okay. We should have a little something to show at Legion's Con, but not like visual, like animation or anything like that yet. But
right, okay, yeah. I was just wondering if you guys were. I mean, we are all fans, and so any kind of anything you guys will come up with, like coat hangers, I would buy some. Like that coat hanger back there, I will take that coat hanger. I'll give you my address. You just put Mythic Legions on it. I'll take it. We're just fans.
Write Mythic Legions in a gold Sharpie, and you're good with it.
Absolutely.
I'll say that we have went down that avenue before. As a matter of fact, I can say that we talked to Netflix about a Mythic Legions cartoon of sorts a few years ago, and nothing really came of that. I'm not so sure. I don't know if it would happen now or not. It's gotten a lot bigger since then, but right now we're going a little bit different route for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And so are you guys, you're happy with the trajectory that you're at now? The business size. Yeah. That's what you said too. Yeah.
Yeah. At the time when we wanted to do, I mean, obviously we would like to do animation of some sort, at some point. But back when we originally decided that we wanted to do that, it probably wasn't the right time.
Right.
So I think we've done okay without it.
Yeah. Fans, the comments are saying, yes, animation, cartoons, anything that you guys can pump out, we're down for it. We love the brand, love the company and the people, and we're down for whatever, even coat hangers, we will take those. Yeah. Anyways.
Well, we'll bring some to Legion's Con.
That sounds good. That sounds good. I appreciate you so much, CB. I can't tell you how much people on here are just so happy that you're doing good and you're back in good health and still handsome as ever. We just appreciate you so much, and thank you personally. Thank you so much.
By the way, my girlfriend said that the shirt that you sent me looks like me.
Yeah, Curtis was giving me some crap too, saying that I'm like an earlier version of Cornboy, and I'm like, hey, that's a compliment. I'll take that. But I did notice that shirt is looking a little big on you. That might be a sleeping shirt now. So I should send you a.
Just wait until I hopefully lose a little bit more weight, and then you can worry about sending me a shirt.
Okay, you got it. I'll
cool.
do you up, no problem. Thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
I can't wait to see you in November. I appreciate you so much.
Thanks a lot, man.
Take care.
All right, see y'all later.
See ya.
Bye.
Well, gang, that's been my episode with Cornboy. I was nervous as hell, man. I'm not gonna lie. This guy is a titan, a juggernaut of the toy industry. And I'm just Greg. I'm not G. I'm not brute scale. I'm just Greg. But I appreciate you guys. It was so good seeing Cornboy. He was in a good mood. He was happy. I made him chuckle a couple times. I wish he had seen your comments. I saw him, and I was laughing internally at some of you guys' funny comments. But I was trying to give him, the stage and let him do his thing. But I did see your comments, and I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you all being here and you guys watching. Please like and subscribe. I hate saying that, but I appreciate it. It means a lot. And I love you guys. Thank you so much. G. Echevarria. Thank you, man. I love you. We got Alex. We got Brad, Curtis, Charlie, Jordan. We had Ed in here. We had my man Mark. My computer's frozen. We got Latin Legions. We got William. John, my new friend John is here or was here. I just appreciate you guys so much taking the time. Terrence, my boy. Jordan, PGG. Much love to you guys. Thank you so damn much. And you guys have a good night, man. Thank you so much. And we'll catch you. Tuesday is a new episode of New to Mythics. It's my new friend, Randall. Great guy. And so check it out. It'll be Tuesday morning. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Remember, friends, to always have fun. Be curious. Share and enjoy what this line has to offer. Come for the toys, but stay for the friends. Good night, and thank you very much.